And round 5 with Rigby.
Rigby, famous Rigby, formerly famous, not really much anymore.
And so what were you doing again? What's going on?
I'm playing the green-white aura deck that, from what I'm told, is something that's come about because of the Jewels of the Planeswalkers. It's the Auramancer deck or something, I don't know, I've not actually played Jewels of the Planeswalkers, but somebody pointed out that it's very similar to a deck that's played on there. But yeah, I've just continued to beat people. I've got lucky a couple of times with people misplaying because they don't know how to play against the deck. But other than that, I've just been making enormous boggles and beating people with them.
What I find really interesting about the deck is how few people were sort of able to build the deck for today as well.
It turns out it's using a lot of cards that are
obscure?
Yeah, just like not very good essentially, so people don't have them. So unless you have arranged to have the cards brought by friends, you can't really pick them up here because nobody has Daybreak Coronets, because why would you bring them because nobody wants them? And it turns out one of the cards we struggled to get the most was Slippery Bogle, because nobody brings their hybrid NAF common from Morningtime or whatever it is.
And so because of this, if you think about it, not many people are going to have sideboard cards to deal with the deck because they're just not going to expect the deck. That works in your favour.
Definitely the first 2 rounds, my opponents had almost nothing to bring in. I'm pretty sure that's what's happened in the later rounds as well. There's only 2 people playing the deck, that's me and Matt, who I think you've spoken to earlier. So there's also no real reason to have any sideboard cards, because unless you're going to play against us, your sideboard cards, which tend to have to be narrow, which is a big binding model.
When we look at an affinity deck, it's completely unplayable at the moment because everyone brings in the Hate Against Eggs, which turns out actually crushes affinity as well.
Yeah, so it's and that's the good thing, because people are aiming for artifacts, nobody's going for enchantments, and obviously we're piling enchantments onto a guy.
Onto crap monsters.
Yeah, crap monsters that you can't target get much bigger, and you can't really do much about it.
I know Matt had his funny story from the previous round of swinging for 5 on turn 2 with his triple Leyline of Sanctity.
In that round, in the 3rd game, if my opponent hadn't played a Spellskite on turn 3, I was going to hit him for lethal. Because I'd gone Bogle, untap, Ethereal Armor, and my hand was Ethereal Armor Rancor to make it up to a 15 power man.
And you decided not to make his Spellkite to a 6/9 or whatever?
Well, no, I still cast the Ethereal. I played a Core Spirit Dance and then played Ethereal Armor to draw a card. He paid 2 life to put it on the Spellskite, but obviously I still own the Ethereal Armor, so it makes my Ethereal Armors better. So I'm still hitting him for 7 with my guy, which he can't block with the Spellskite. He goes to 6 and then has to chump with the Spellskite the next turn anyway. So.
And you think that's maybe the difference between you and some of the people playing today, is that picking up on these sort of obscure things quite quickly, how you're still the owner?
Yeah. A lot of people would just stop playing their enchantments because they'll just get Spellskited, whereas I was like, well, these still improve my Ethereal Armor, so I'm...
And likewise, it's the little interactions. It's like when your opponent plays a Chalice of the Void, it's to know that you're still going to cast your enchantments so you get to draw the cards.
Yeah, that's precisely what happened. He played a Chalice for 1 in game 2, and I think he'd not been playing long, and he played a couple of 1 casting cost spells, so I was like, well, yours get counted as well as mine. But yeah, I played my Spirit Dancer.
It'd be a big good Chalice if it only did your opponents.
Yeah, but I played my Spirit Dancer and I'm like, yeah, Ethereal Armor, I draw a card, it's countered, do the same, try and draw through to my 2 casting cost enchantments.
So it wasn't a case of you played your card and your opponent went, that's countered, and you're like, not before a trigger goes on the stack.
I still draw a card because it's when I've cast it, so I'm still plodding through there.
How are you enjoying the the new trigger rules anyway?
I think they're really good. There's obviously a little bit of room for abuse, but no matter how you put the rules, because Magic's played by intelligent people who want to game the system as much as they can and gain any edge they can, they're going to find ways to, no matter how the rules are set, they will find the best way to use those rules for themselves. But I think the ones that take the onus off, people getting warnings and game losses because their opponents didn't do things, just seemed really poor.
Yeah, that used to be a really terrible part of the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's just it's not something you want to be doing, especially with the game growing as it is, and new people coming to tournaments all the time, and then they get told that they've been given a game loss because they didn't notice that their opponent had missed something twice. And he's like, well, I didn't miss anything, my opponent did. And he's like, yeah, but you're meant to notice and tell him about it and like keep the game state the same. And it's like, all right, so I've lost now and I'm out. And it's like, it's just not something you want to be doing.
So obviously, like you said at the start, 5-0. Is that going to be 8-0? Are there any bad matchups for this deck?
The combo decks are quite a bad matchup, but the sideboard's quite stacked against them. I think there's...
So like Splinter Twins goes off a turn before you can kill them sometimes, can't they?
Unless we get one of the really fast draws, yeah. Technically we can go off a turn before they can, but they're more likely to go off than we are do that. So there's we've got Spell Skies and Suppression Fields and things like that to just that come down a turn before they can go off a turn before we can kill them type thing.
So in other players' decks, in their sideboards, what is their hate for other decks that might actually have some effect against you?
What people are bringing in is Disenchants, Kasali Pride Mages, things like that. And there's so many enchantments. It's more a case of taking out one enchantment doesn't often do a lot. My guy's got 2 Hyene Umbras on it, a Spider Umbra, a Rancor and a Spirit Mantle, and it's knock yourself out, mate, take one out. It doesn't really matter. And then you just plough through them anyway.
So, no decks particularly you're fearing?
Not really. But I've not played any combo decks yet. I played a different deck each round. I've played 5-colour Zoo, Affinity, Martyr of Sands, Jund, Red-Green Tron. Now,
out of all these decks you played, is there anyone you think just shouldn't have shown up today based on their deck choice?
No, Modern's so wide open, you can literally play anything. Each of the decks is a perfectly viable choice. Martyr, you tend to want to play it at a specific time in the metagame cycle, and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head whether today's right, but it doesn't feel like it is.
Maybe the one thing to suggest is that, we've been pretty much having a chat after every round after about 20 minutes. Now, if you're playing eggs, you're going to time. And surely, if you plan on making a top 8, you're probably not going to enjoy that top 8 after playing for 8 whole hours before that.
The other thing is, you really have to be... I think to play eggs at a PTQ, you have to be really focused and want to win the PTQ. Because it's not a deck you can play where you're I'm not really bothered, not sure what I want to do, I'll play eggs. Because it's a deck with so many triggers and so many interactions and things you need to do that you really want to be aware, want to be ready to play it, know how to play it, and not... there was a guy that I've seen that was playing it and he's just dropped out because he's realised it's a lot of work and he doesn't want to...
So what you're actually saying is you're quite bad at Magic, which is why you picked a really simple deck?
Not quite. Me and Matthew have spoken about it and we thought it was a really good choice for the day and the way the metagame is. And as soon as people start packing hate for it, it becomes a lot weaker. So it's sort of it's going to be sort of quite a short window of opportunity to play it. Because as soon as people start playing chalices, because a chalice for one's a bit of a beating and stuff like that. So as soon as people go, oh well, I can throw a couple of chalices in and it's not going to affect me too much and things like that, it loses its impact. Whereas today, nobody's got many sideboard cards against it, so...
Okay, well, hopefully we'll have a chat to you in the next couple of rounds and you'll tell us that you're still in contention.
Indeed,
Thanks a lot.
So. Thanks a lot.